Oh, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Tuesday Night Live, brought to you by CrowCast. The usual motley crew with me tonight, and we've got tons to discuss, not just the Showdown win, but lots happening in the AFL world during the week. So, without any further ado, I shall introduce the cast. We have Donkey Magoo. How you going, Donkey? And I'll just take you off mute. How you going, Donkey?
Good to be with you.
I have to have you on mute because you people are so undisciplined there that you've got chips and drinks and all sorts of shit going on in the background.
Oh, you're a bit like Tex, mate. You're just not aspiring to leadership. I'm voting for Pete.
Yeah, okay. Macca, how you going, mate?
Yeah, very good, thanks, mate.
Good to hear. And Pete, of course, how you going?
Good to be with you as always, mate.
Very good. Look, tons to discuss, and I think we should probably crack straight into the news. What do you reckon?
Sounds good.
What do we got?
Well, gents, really there's no other news in the AFL this evening other than the Gaff suspension, and I don't know how closely you followed it. I certainly did via Twitter feed and some of the little bites that were released throughout the course of the hearing. Personally, I was pretty disappointed with the outcome. I think that 8 weeks was a little bit light on. I was hoping, I was of the Gerard Whateley persuasion, I was hoping it was going to be more around the 12 mark, which I think would have sent a stronger message. I think, though, that my take from the hearing was really, I felt that Gaff's counsel let him down, and I think certainly in my eyes damaged his reputation further with ridiculous submissions like requesting a penalty of 3 games, and also I think allowing him to, first of all, immediately plead guilty to the charge of intentionally striking, but then allowing him to get on the stand and to then try and explain away his actions as though it was an accident. I think that, it's a tribunal, it's not a court of law, but the reality is that they're administrative proceedings, and they should have been conducted in such a way as that they were more professional, and that is that, when you plead guilty to an act, then you plead guilty to it, and you do not then go on and start talking about circumstances which would indicate that it was an accident. And I just thought he really, his counsel let him down right down the wrong path, because if you're looking to, save some character and be judged, as well as you can be by putting your hand up and owning up to it and pleading guilty, there's not much point then having owned up to it, getting on the stand and then giving a whole lot of excuses as to why it happened. Most particularly the fact that he was suddenly giving evidence about the fact that he was intending to hit Brayshaw in the chest, that Brayshaw sort of moved, and all these things which indicated that it wasn't actually an intentional act. And I thought that overall his counsel led him down the wrong path, and he was really let down by the proceedings. So anyway, sorry, it's a little bit of a rant from me, but didn't like it, and I thought that it was very, very soft in terms of the penalty.
Yeah, I thought it was a balanced penalty, actually, in the sense that if he was a guy that was known to throw his fists around regularly and was a troublemaker, etc., like some players are, I've never actually ever seen him even put on a hard tackle, let alone anything else. But in terms of the fact that his story about what he intended to do, it doesn't get him out of the rap of beating of what actually happened. But I do actually believe that he intended to hit him high on the chest, because the blows to the stomach that the players used to do all the time to get away with a fine, they were told that if they were continually blows to the stomach, that was specified to the stomach, that they would get a penalty, like a suspension. And in recent times, the blows have been much higher. They've been around about the but just below the neck on the chest area, and I think that's maybe what he was trying to do. Now,
well, then don't plead to intentionally doing it. Don't plead to intentionally doing it. Get up there and argue your case. You've got to do one or the other.
Oh,
you either intentionally did it or you didn't.
Well, he intended to hit him, so he can't deny that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mac. I'm no barrister, but it was an intentional strike, so you can't say you didn't do it. And I think what's happened here is normally if you talk about a court of law, you'd have your hearing of the case, so where you'd plead guilty, and then you'd have your sentencing hearing. And in a tribunal situation, those two things emerge. So there's a reason why you would say, look, I plead guilty to the strike. I'm not trying to get away with that. But these are the reasons that mitigate why the strike occurred in the first place, or the depth and severity of it. So I sort of don't necessarily agree with you on the process or the way the council handled it. Asking for 3 weeks was a bit silly, considering the damage that was done to Brayshaw's face. And as you started off your little comments with tonight, Pete, just getting it little bites. Well, that's what Brayshaw's going to be having for the next few months, little bites.
True enough, Fiend. What do you think?
Look, yeah, I probably think the same as you, Pete. I think it was a little bit light. I thought it was a cynical defence put forward. I really felt like they had nowhere to go, and a lot of people are saying that it was clear that Gaff was going for a punch in the chest. To me, that's it doesn't really matter. It's the same situation as someone going for a bump and collecting someone's head. As soon as you collect someone in the head, all bets are off. It doesn't matter what you intended to do. So I don't even think the intended target should have even been a point of contention. The fact is, he swung a closed fist. He made contact with Brayshaw's head. He did considerable damage, and I think, to be perfectly honest, I was expecting double figures. I was expecting 10. So I think he's probably, if anything, he's probably a little bit lucky. And Corey on the Facebook chat, and I just have to mention that we are going live on Facebook as well as Spreaker tonight, but Corey on the Facebook chat mentions that the AFL are considering appealing that outcome. So they were obviously looking for a double-figure suspension as well.
It's an interesting comment from Corey. Great to have you listening, mate. But I thought I read there that Gleeson requested a penalty of somewhere between 8 and 12. And so that would be interesting to see the basis upon which they appeal that, given the fact they asked for 8. But anyway, let's not get... unless anyone particularly wants to say anything more about that incident, we crack on with some other Crows-related stuff.
Can I just ask before we go into
the
Crows news, what happened with the Francis one?
I've no idea.
He got offered a fine. Did he accept it?
Well, he did, yes.
He accepted the fine, so they didn't contest it.
I thought he contested and got a higher fine. I think.
Oh, did he? Let me just have a quick look, because that was, to me, the most ridiculous citing by the match review panel I've seen in a long time. Did you guys see
Is that the one on O'Meara?
Yeah, that's right.
Patrick Keane actually today on Twitter released some reverse angle photographs. I don't know if you've caught those.
Yep, I saw those.
So that does show a head-high bump.
No, it doesn't. No, it actually proves exactly the opposite. I tweeted out when Patrick released those pictures, it actually proves exactly the opposite, because if you look at the way the head moves on contact, the head moves in a whiplash fashion. If Francis had hit O'Meara in the head, then there's no way, it's physically impossible that O'Meara's head could move towards Francis, but it did. If you hit something, it doesn't...
Maybe I might have seen different photos, because the photos that I saw showed that it looked to me, on looking at those photos, that there was high contact.
You're talking about the 4 or 6 stills that he released? He released those yesterday.
4 stills today.
No, he released them yesterday.
No, there was some the reverse angle ones.
Yep. So you've got O'Meara in the foreground and Francis in the background.
Yep. Well, fair enough.
It's
I'm
actually
not bogged down on it.
No, but it's physics. Well, I mean, it's worth discussing, because this is a point of physics, Pete. That the head can't move towards Francis if Francis has made contact with it. It's physically impossible.
What did he grade it as?
Oh, it doesn't matter what it was graded as. It should have been thrown out because there was no head.
If he grades it as high contact, then then he believes that there's been high contact. He would have graded the contact.
But my argument is that there wasn't, and that the footage has actually been misinterpreted by people that don't.
That's your argument. But what I'm asking is what did he grade it as? Does anybody know? Did he grade it as high contact?
Well, yeah, it was contact to the head. That was the whole point.
Okay. Oh, well, I mean, look. All I can
on
say
what
is
other
what
basis would Francis? On what other basis would Francis get a suspension? You're allowed a bump.
To answer the original question, Francis accepted the $2,000 fine for rough conduct.
Yeah, that's actually a disgrace. We may as well stop the bump because not only is that a fair and reasonable bump, but if we've got idiots that can't interpret footage correctly, then what point is there in having something that's going to be contentious? Because I'll put it to you again that if you understand physics, then there is no possible way that head-high contact was made. Well, and it's backed up by Patrick Keane's footage, the stills that he posted.
Well, the offence was graded by
Michael Christian.
Christian, as careless conduct with low impact to the head.
Yeah, there's no way. There was no head-high contact. Couldn't have happened.
Are they going to appeal it?
No, what
they've accepted it.
That they considered to challenge, and they thought they had a fair case, but in the end decided that it might be just as easy to accept it after they spoke to Aaron.
Yeah, and the problem is that Michael Christian has interpreted that footage, and based on previous decisions that Michael Christian has made this season, it's reasonable to suggest that Michael Christian hasn't got the intelligence necessary to make those judgments. His appointment and his performance this year has been an unmitigated disaster.
Certainly there have been, in my opinion, a few errors by the guy, and then in fact that's been proven by the fact that they've been overturned later. So he's done a reasonable job, but not a great job.
No, he's had the consistency of chunky custard. Absolutely no good.
Yeah, but if you're going to have one guy in charge of all those decisions, with the only recourse against his decisions a costly a trip to the AFL tribunal to appeal, then you've got to make sure that the bloke that's making those decisions has a clue. And, no disrespect to Michael Christian as a person, but he's shown to me, in my opinion, that he is not equipped to be the person wholly and solely in charge of judging all those incidents because he's made too many errors.
He has made errors. That's true.
Yeah, Daniel McStay didn't get a fine for rough conduct or whatever when Tom Didé missed a week, and the argument was, well, Didé contributed to the hit and all the rest of it. It doesn't matter. The simple fact is that McStay's arm was swinging when it made contact with Didé's head, which means that McStay has failed in his duty of care. So, to me, there's too much inconsistency, and I think having an ex-footballer in charge of the MRP is no good. We need someone who has a bit higher standing in the community, an ex-lawyer or ex-judge or something like that, because Michael Christian's appointment and performance has been a failure in my view.
Okay, so shall we happy to move on with some Crows talk?
Yep.
Sam Gibson announced his retirement today, which was a surprise. 130 games straight at the Kangaroos, and then, of course, bumped head on into the fitness program at the Crows and had a very injury-interrupted year.
Yeah, but he had that Kangatech. We had that Kangatech program that he never would have seen before at North Melbourne.
So, but anyway, look, only I think half a dozen games with us, but congratulations on an excellent career. with North Melbourne as well. Obviously, a great club man over there, and I'm sure he'll be back at that club, and they'll be around him. And I think probably one that got under our guard a little bit, and we've had a couple of messages about this, is that we didn't really congratulate Curtly Hampton on his career and retirement. And we should acknowledge Curtly, who has spent, is it 2 or 3 years with the club? Might be 3.
3, I reckon, yeah.
I think 3 years with the club, so that's not insignificant, and played a number of games for us. And I thought that on occasion played some pretty good football for us as well. And so congratulations to Curtly on his career, and we certainly wish him all the best in his life after football.
Yeah,
Curtly certainly played a batch of 8 very, very good games at the beginning of last year before getting injured, and after that, our injury program took care of the rest for him.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, isn't it? A guy that you thought, I certainly was a big fan of Curtly, and I thought he had the tools, and circumstances conspired against him, I think, and I don't think the events of the beginning of the year helped the situation either. You never know; he might bounce. He might bounce back and get rookied in a year or so. He might just need a bit of a break from everything. Bit of a pity. Bit of a pity. I'd just like to also point out that the power of social media. There's a guy that's just jumped onto our Facebook chat feed who was my best mate in late primary school, early high school, and I haven't seen Louis for about 34 years. And here he is sitting on the CrowCast chat. So there you go, the power of social media.
It is. Facebook is amazing for catching up with old school friends. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, incredible. What else have we got? We got a milestone again this week after Bryce's 250th last week. We're probably the most important milestone of the year this year.
Yeah, well, in terms of certainly games played with our club, David McKay obviously coming up for his 200th game. And so congratulations to him. It's an outstanding achievement to have played 200 games of AFL football, and we all know that he cops a lot of criticism on social media, and I'm sure there'd be very few of us that would be will have been immune to that. But at the end of the day, as I considered the other day, he's been through a number of coaches have come and gone in across David McKay's tenure, and each and every one of those coaches have made him pretty much a first choice player for the most part of his career. So, it can't be said that he was one coach's favourite or anything like that. He obviously earns his position, and he has, he's been with the club for a long time. And I mean, to me, he certainly played his better football in his earlier years. But you can't not congratulate a player on playing 200 games of AFL football.
Well, can't argue that at all. He must have some ability to be able to play that many games. It's just that I think at times his form hasn't warranted his selection, and he's still being chosen. But in amongst all that, he has played some good football as well.
Yeah, DMAC for me, although very frustrating to watch sometimes, there's just always those sort of magical DMAC moments that he pulls out every now and again to go, gee, why can't you do that every time he touches it? And I'm thinking probably one of his last quarter goals last year against Hawthorn out of the G, where you just sort of see the jag when we needed him, and show glimpses of the player that I always hoped he would be, but hasn't quite got there. But still, 200 games is a massive effort, and I struggled to run around the oval once, and I'm probably a couple of years younger than him.
Yeah, look, you can say what you like about DMAC, but you don't play 200 games for no reason, and just getting on an AFL list is an achievement when there's only 700 running around at that level, and for him to have the longevity and the resilience to make it to 200 games is a great achievement. He remains our most popular player interview ever. Our inaugural player interview, and I think that's probably, if he was going to be really honest, that would be his a real feather in his cap, and probably his crowning moment.
Yeah, well, it's why I get up every morning, just for the weekly preparation for the show.
What else have we got in the news, Pete? Anything?
No, I reckon we I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff that was attached to the Showdown, so we could probably have a chat about that.
Why don't we get into that?
A bit of potential coaches' movements.
Oh, yeah, let's just cover that quickly. Make a good point.
Yeah, Richie's stirring the pot, saying, for example, that Hart might end a crossover at Port Adelaide. Well, I am a little bit mystified with, are they happy with Hart or are they not happy with Hart to offer him a 1-year contract when he obviously looking for a little bit of security because his family still stayed in Melbourne because he was only on a 1-year contract this year.
I think he's indifferent. I think they're indifferent, to be honest with you, Macca. You don't offer a short-term deal to someone that you value.
No, that's what I'm saying. But if you know, why offer the 1 year then if you're not that happy with him?
Well, because maybe you're hedging your bets. You keep him around. You can give him a development role. Maybe they think that if they get someone else in, that they can slip Benny Hart into the SANFL coaching role. Now that Ryan O'Keefe's gone, so they're probably just hedging their bets. It's one less position they have to fill. But they probably also understand that it's not ideal for him to have his family interstate, and they're probably saying, well, you know, this is the best we got, and we're not prepared to offer you enough to get the family over. So see how you go. And, you know, I think it's rather hilarious that Rucci calls it poaching by Port Adelaide because, as I said, I think the Adelaide Footy Club are somewhat indifferent, and I think if he ended up at Port Adelaide, I don't think it'd be poaching. I think it'd just be a better offer.
Yep, and the second coach in question is Franco, who the story is apparently that Jew is offering him a position as, I don't know what he would actually call it, but like his 2IC type situation.
Senior assistant.
Which would be senior assistant, which would be a promotion, which would, under the rules that they operate under, will allow him to break his contract with us and go there. Whether that will happen or not, I don't know, and whether we would be happy about it, I don't know. But it struck me as quite humorous in a way that if Hart went and if Franco went, the one guy that we'd still have is a Camporelli, which everybody's saying they want to get rid of.
Well, he's on a 28-year contract.
Yeah.
So.
Only part-time, though. Well, I mean, there's whispers about Peter Sumich. He's been linked to the club, obviously a very, very close friend with Don Pike, ex-premiership teammate with Don Pike. There's also, we've got Brett Ratton is on the market, or put himself on the market, and I think he'd be an excellent, or both or either of those gentlemen would be an excellent addition to our coaching panel. So it'll be interesting to see it. I think it'll be an interesting off-season because I think, if nothing else, I think the whispers from the club are that I think Don does want to turn over the coaching panel a little bit, and he's obviously hamstrung to a degree by contracts and whatnot. But the club's been quite decisive in terms of Ryan O'Keefe, and less decisive, but probably just as open in terms of their position on Benny Hart. So there will be some changes, obviously not the one that everyone wants, although if Scotty's going to stay part-time, maybe Scotty becomes the bloody SANFL coach, I don't know. But interesting times in the off-season, I reckon, on that score.
Would certainly like to see Brett Ratton acquired by the club. I think he's outstanding. He was actually doing a reasonable job with Carlton before he got turfed, and obviously, from all of my research, a very highly valued assistant in at Hawthorn in that program for a number of years, and so I think he would be a great acquisition.
Yeah, I totally agree with that because Carlton were at least a reasonable side when he was there, and I think didn't they make the finals?
They did.
Year he got sacked,
yep.
And then of course they gave it to Malthouse, who started the downhill slide, and then they've got the little fella that's there now who makes a lot of noise but no action.
Well, he's a great teaching coach, apparently, Bolton, but I don't know what he's teaching him. It's not how to win games of footy. The other thing that Brett Ratton brings, as well as senior coaching experience, is Hawthorn system experience. And let's be honest, where Clarkson's got that team again this season is proof to me that he is an excellent coach and an excellent strategist. And anytime you can poach someone out of that system, I reckon it's a good time. So Brett Ratton would be the one I'd be hunting down and blowing the bloody luxury tax on if I was the Adelaide Crows.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally agree.
All right, so I guess we can, at this stage, just move on to some match talk, eh? There's only one thing better than beating the Power, and that's beating the Power controversially.
Oh, yeah. Love it.
I think I said through the week, the only thing that would make it better for me is if they actually released a photograph with a chip out of the post.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen that. It was a weird game of football, though, wasn't it? Because, if you were looking at it from a purely a purist sort of point of view, you'd say that Port Adelaide played the better football.
Oh, do you think?
Most of the night. The way they moved the ball, they cut us to pieces, particularly in the first quarter. Statistically, we obviously had more of the ball, but I'm talking about looking at the game from a purist point of view in terms of playing, good to watch football. And when they did move the ball, they cut us to ribbons.
Yeah, but it's only when they caught us on the outside, though, Pete. They were playing.
Yeah, and they did it, and they did that plenty.
Yeah.
You're telling me they didn't play some good football?
In patches, but I felt
What about the first quarter when they kicked 5 goals against the Wind?
Well, I'm not saying that they didn't play good football, but what I'm saying is that no, they didn't.
People listen for a reasonable analysis. You're telling me they didn't play good football in the first quarter when they kicked 5 goals against the Wind, and we had absolutely no answer to them in terms of stopping their offensive output.
Well, the only reason they scored 5 goals, Peter, is because we were playing too high up the back, and that was addressed at half time, and it dried them up. I mean, I think that from my point of view, we dictated that game from start to finish, and we continued to let them in the game. First of all, because of structure, and second of all, because of some poor forward 50 entries. But I felt like Port Power were completely reactive in the way that they played the whole night. They had seagulls sitting outside waiting for the ball to be fed out, and let's face it, that's the way Hinkley's got them playing.
So they were that bad. They lost by 3 points.
No, I didn't say they were that bad, but I'm not saying that they were any better, Pete. That's what I'm saying. You're elevating them, and I'm saying
it's a difference. What I'm saying, you're missing the point that I'm making, and that's not that they necessarily played. They didn't. That they weren't outplayed at times by us statistically, and we had more of the ball and all those good things. I'm just saying aesthetically, I thought they played some better football to watch.
Oh, I disagree.
Yeah, I would agree with. No, I disagree with you, Pete, on this occasion because we won every stat by 20 to 30% more than they did, and what Felix said is totally right. We didn't have our press We didn't have our press totally right in the first half, and that allowed them to have those quick bursts over the top and get the easy goals. And it might have looked attractive, but that was actually. We were dominating, making errors, and then didn't have the people in the right place to prevent them doing a quick rebound for a goal, which made their goals look quite attractive. But also,
so you agree?
It made those goals look attractive. It doesn't mean to say they played better.
I didn't.
Or more attractive footy.
You know what? I'm going to just withdraw this whole because nobody's understanding what I'm saying. So
we're understanding.
So we'll move on. Well, Mac has just agreed with me. And then he's trying to say that, so anyway, I'm going to withdraw it. We'll move on.
Whatever.
Yeah, I think you're arguing semantics, Peter, and we don't have to move on because there's 4 of us in the conversation. So there's a difference between us making them look like they're playing attractive football and them playing attractive football by design. And it's very easy. It's very easy to look good when you're seagulling outside the contest and just waiting for the ball to rebound out of a very packed back 50.
That's fair analysis. But my original point was that they played at various times played more attractive football than we did, which you both just agreed with. So
no,
well,
neither of us agree with that. And
whether that
your
was
training,
because of our bad play
your training,
or
Peter, should
whatever.
allow you to recognise the difference between what you think we're saying and what we're actually saying.
No, I know that. I know what I'm saying, and I know that at 2 times there you both agree with it. But then what you're actually doing is you're then justifying.
No, we
by saying,
made
well,
them
it's because
look
we
like
allowed
they
them.
were playing more. We made them look that way.
Yeah, it probably is a semantic.
It is a semantic.
So apologise, Pete. What we're saying is, we are sort of agreeing with it. We're saying we were the reason for it, not them.
Yeah, well, that's fine. That's fine.
It wasn't by
happy to agree with
design.
that.
I don't think Port. In fact, I don't really look hard at Port unless we're playing them. And to be perfectly frank with you, I was a bit surprised by how negative Ken has them structured.
That's how they play that way all the time.
Yeah, well, as I said, I don't really take a lot of notice of them when they're not in my face. And I was quite shocked that they were basically sitting back behind the ball and just trying to get us on the counter continually. And they don't have enough speed, in my opinion, and it shows by some of the statistics. And we kept them in the game, in my opinion, because had we been more efficient with our disposal and our use of the ball going into forward 50 and our conversion, they wouldn't have been, even JJ's point wouldn't have made any difference because we would have been 5 or 6 in front.
I totally agree with that.
Donkey's pretty quiet.
You're
still there. I'm actually a bit concerned.
It's just getting a word in extras with you blokes is a bit of a challenge sometimes.
Well, here you go. Have your moment.
I'm a bit like Malia early in his career, and not always going into the contest, but can weave away quite easily. At the end. Look, I completely disagree with Peter and think that Port were really good to watch at a lot of points during the game. So that's one thing there.
Good on you, you idiot.
No, look. I thought we played some really tough, grinding footy, and I think we played accountable and quite often attacking footy. You could just tell that the difference between us winning by a goal and probably winning by the 3 or 4 goals that Macca and I predicted was just a bit of polish on our end, so to speak. And I think that was probably the difference. Between just looking at it a little bit better, and Port looked like they don't have any rust on them, and they were able to move the ball quite quickly and smoothly when they did, and I think that contributed to what we saw. For me, the story of the last few weeks is just how good Wayne Malera Jr. has become, and watching the way the ducks and weaves and through traffic, how strong he is through the hips, and how exciting he's playing, and just watching blokes like Rory Sloane and Matt Crouch actually find their feet again and start producing some of the football we know that they can produce is what I'm really excited about, and why I keep playing with the ladder predictor, just trying to work out a sequence of events that gets into the final.
That gets us in.
There's a couple,
Yeah, I'm sure there's a couple, and I'm sure you've identified them.
Yeah, round 23 could actually be very exciting. There's 3 games that could, if the next 2 weeks go the right way, there are 3 games that could either knock us out or elevate us into the 8 if we win through in round 23. It's amazing. It's crazy.
Sydney and North both winning on the weekend put a real dampener on my hopes. Not for any other reason that those results had to go our way for us to continue to be in with a real chance because of our percentage situation. And North,
and the gas suspension is probably going to hurt us.
Well, that's right, because it weakens West Coast, and we need West Coast to win a couple. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I've tried to work a few of those scenarios too, Donkey, and I need to have quite a bit of alcohol before any of those ones that make us sit in the 8, actually seem feasible.
I wake up in a state where that's still okay, so I can take it early in the morning. But if we were talking about odds on a Bricky's laptop, if you dropped a pineapple through, you'd probably finish your $5 presses and you're just hoping to hit the feature on the last couple of 20-cent spins, and that's probably where we are at the moment. So we're not out of the hunt.
I mean, I felt I was a bit the same as I think it was you, Donkey, or it could have been Macca. The thing that I liked the most about our win was just the fact that we stayed in it for 4 quarters, and it was, you don't often see a win built on the back of real grunt from the Adelaide Crows, and I felt like that's what that game was. And we were talking on Sunday night, Macca and Nicky and myself, about that really does set a benchmark, because there's no reason why the Showdown should get our blokes up any more than any other home and away season, any other home and away game, particularly crunch games like the previous week against Melbourne. We should have been playing with the same intensity. So,
yeah,
it's an interesting point, isn't it? Because sorry, Donkey,
you're right.
You really had some momentum up there. I've just broken it. But that's a very interesting point about why do we have such intensity against Port Adelaide and have no problem producing it, and yet against Melbourne, when it really was, that was an 8-point game really, and we just didn't have the same intensity. Hello.
Now's where you speak, Donkey.
Sorry, I didn't really have an answer to Macca. I thought someone might want to take on that chain, but what I was, I'm just going to talk about something completely different.
Now you know how his wife feels.
You're always interested in pineapples and spinning.
No, look, what I was going to say, and I know a lot of people, are really concerned about where we finish and what draft pick that'll get us and what that does for the team. I think there's also another important point for us is just to establish that winning culture and winning feeling and belief in each other before the end of the year. So you go into the off-season trying to achieve something, not going, we're back at square one. I sort of equate it to, I don't know how many of you fellas play golf, but I'm not very good at it. But I usually have one shot around that I go,
keeps you coming back.
That was good. I'm coming back. Exactly. So, a few solid performances at the end of the year, I think, just that little bit of hangover at the end of the year that we want to keep pushing, keep going hard.
Great point by PJ Crows in the chat about answering that question about why we couldn't repeat the effort against Melbourne. Well, plainly Melbourne are a far better side than Port Adelaide.
Yeah, but I don't think your opposition dictates your effort, Pete, does it?
Oh, of course they do.
No,
of course they do. Melbourne are a far better side than Port Adelaide.
But that doesn't stop you from
what you're
making
saying,
an
there was
effort.
no effort against Melbourne.
There was less grit.
Effort.
There was less grit and determination against Melbourne than there was against Port Adelaide.
Bullshit.
Of course there was.
Rubbish. Of course there was. Melbourne were just a better side.
They were, but I also...
We let Melbourne go on a tear where we hardly got near the ball for a quarter. You can't tell me that not getting a clearance, losing contested ball by about 10,050 and hardly laying a tackle equates to the same effort that was put in against Port the following week.
Yeah, I think the stats indicate that I don't believe that we did put in the same effort, and obviously the quality of the opponent dictates the result, but it shouldn't dictate the amount of effort you put in, and things like contested ball and tackles and all those types of things. I don't think we performed anywhere near as well in those areas as we did against Port Adelaide. I think it was a much fiercer game.
Well, there was one clear stat in the Melbourne game that wasn't reflected in the Port game, Macca. And if you cast your mind back a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about on the Wrap Show, what happened when Melbourne challenged us halfway through the second quarter is that we, rather than taking the game on, we decided to play keepings off, and our uncontested possession count went through the roof.
Yes, that's right.
We tried to keep the ball away from Melbourne and play bruise-free footy. And we weren't good enough to do it, and as a consequence, all the other indicators, contested possession, clearance count, all the other indicators, including the scoreboard, went south for us. Now against Port Adelaide, at no stage did we make the same tactic. There wasn't ever at any stage the same ballooning of uncontested possessions. Our all our effort stats, tackles, which were miles high. Our clearance work, our stoppage work, all of those indicators remain very solid throughout. We're plus 10 on clearances for the night. We're plus 17 on contested possessions for the night. We're plus 13 on tackles inside 50, plus 18 on tackles. They're all effort indicators that were not present the previous week. So I don't know what game you were watching, Pete, but it's not the game that I was watching because we went to sleep against Melbourne in a game that potentially meant more to us in terms of our aspirations for the season.
Yeah, I think our disappearing in the middle of really important matches is something that's plagued us over the last few years, and the sooner we come up with an answer to that, the better. And maybe if that chipping around and trying to maintain possession was a tactic to try and stop that, we've tried it, didn't work, and let's find some better ways to mitigate that. We just watching us getting rolled over in those times is probably the most heartbreaking thing as a Crow supporter you get.
Yeah,
well,
no, look...
Can't argue.
No, you're right.
I can't argue with it at all. And I thought, the Melbourne game was a critical game for us, absolutely critical. And I know that they played the better football, but what Phoenix was saying about the way we played, we played a lot more bruise free than we did against Port Adelaide. Against Port Adelaide, we were prepared to put our bodies on the line for every ball, and it is a lot harder to beat a team when you're playing like that. But anyhow, it's history now. We did lose the game to Melbourne, and deservedly so. And I thought we won the game against Port, and deservedly so, and I was very happy too because I backed us as well, so I won as well.
Yeah, and we can't, I guess, move on to the Giants game before we just quickly address the Josh Jenkins situation. My own personal view is that
You're breaking up a bit.
Are we right?
It sounded a bit like Megatron.
Megatron?
You're breaking up then, yeah.
How are we back now?
Not quite.
No. Look, the situation, as far as I could tell, was that...
No, you're breaking up.
You sound like you're speaking behind a fan that's still chopping the way through.
How's that now?
Oh,
Beautiful.
That's nice.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Got your dulcet tones back. Mate.
Lovely. No, as I was saying, what I feel with the JJ thing is that the procedure was followed correctly, aside from the fact that the third umpire probably put the wrong thing up. He put a goal up when he should have put umpire's call, but the outcome was the same. But I think it just highlights the fact that you either change the rules and allow goals from balls that hit the post, or you have to spend the money on technology. I mean, there's no other course of action, really.
I don't think he hit the post, but whatever.
I don't know whether people are going to agree with me or not, but I really, really do like the idea of the ball, if it hits the post going through, is still a goal. I think it just takes away all the bullshit of did it hit the post, did it not hit the post, and spending a fortune on trying to determine whether it hit the post or not. From my point of view, you wouldn't need a goal review system at all. If it hit the post and bounced back into play, I'm happy to call that a point. If it goes and hits the post and goes through, whether it be a point or a goal, and I know I can see people disagreeing with me already on the chat, but I just think it just simplifies the whole thing in what is a rather complicated game.
I'm with you, Macca.
Yeah, I actually don't disagree with you, Macca. I just hesitant for the AFL to play with rules because they managed to stuff it up in some way. But I actually like the idea of it hitting the post and coming back into play and let's play on. Like a little bit of a chaos ball. That'd be about it. A lot of fun.
Yep, I agree. To me, it takes a complexity. We've got enough complexity in the game. Anytime you've got an opportunity to simplify the game, in my opinion, is a good thing. And every other sport that uses physical structures to delineate the scoring zone has that rule that the post is in play, and if it flicks the post on the way through, it doesn't matter. If it hits the post and bounces out, it's play on. I don't see why AFL football should be any different, and it would take away one area of complexity for us to deal with, and probably save quite a few $100,000 in goalpost technology. I have to say, and I'm going to drop a name here because there was some talk today that the AFL have been in conversation with the blokes that invented the Zing cricket bails. Now,
yeah, Zing.
Now, Bronte Eckermann, who, along with his brother Steve, invented the bloody Zing bails and made a freaking fortune out of it. He is an old mate. We used to play. A lot of my friends went to school with Buddha, we called him, and we had a world-renowned indoor cricket team back when we were in our teen years, and it never makes us stop laughing when we think about Buddha and the fortune that he's made on that little idea that I'm sure he came up with in a cloud of inebriation. But nevertheless, I don't see how it applies to footy, simply because there's too many ways in which the post can be contacted, don't you think?
Yeah, except that the only way I think you could do that with it technically would be as if it was above the height that a human being could reach, and therefore
possibly. But then you're not really taking away all the complexity, are you?
No, although most of the complexity normally happens up high, doesn't it?
Well, here's a good thing, and Donkey, you might have an opinion on this. I reckon they should actually put bails on the top of the footy posts. And if the bail gets dislodged and it flashes, it falls down, and it's just another thing that the players and the umpires have got to watch out for. You know, you don't want to get sconed by a bail that, let's face it, is probably going to have to be 3 foot wide.
I think you just say. My opinion is you got to leave the wisecracks to me, mate.
Yeah, it's probably a fair call too. Hey, look, let's move on to the Giants game, because it looms as another very important match for us on Saturday night at Manuka.
Yes.
Come on, guys!
So look, I thought you had music or something.
Oh, wait,
we're still in match short, and we got to step up because Pete rage quit. I think Pete rage quit. Yeah, so it's just the three of us. We got to carry this bloody dog's breakfast.
Well, when the cat is away, the mice will play.
Come on, Donkey, you got to step up.
Yeah, thank God we got you. Thank God we got you, Donkey.
Well, look, Canberra's a wonderful, wonderful city. I'm not sure if a lot of people have had time to get down there. Autumn leaves nearly all the time round. You can go visit the museums. It's a lovely place to be. Also, it's really cold. Yeah, it's only really bad if you have to stay. Look, this is going to be a really tough game. The GWS midfield is really quick, and they're really silky, and they're really starting to find their form now. I feel that if we're not 100% on our A game, then we are in a world of trouble. And but in saying that, I think that we will be, and we're gonna power on through. But I think that this is probably the most dangerous game we've got for the rest of the year. There's only 3 of them. But I think it's going to be a world of pain if we don't select our side correctly.
Yeah, I think we'll be lucky to win it, to be honest, because they are a good team, and they have a mighty good midfield. You know, Kelly is, in my opinion, undoubtedly the best player in the competition. He's just got such quality. He's got such time, and you know, as I said, he's silkier than Sean Burgoyne. I reckon he's one of the best footballers I've seen. He's got the lot. And Coniglio he's just the way that he wins possession of the ball. He wins tough balls, outside balls. He wins the lot, and he's a very good player too. Plus Ward, etc. The one thing that will be in our favour is that they don't really have a ruckman. You know, their ruckman's gone down. He's not going to be playing for 2 or 3 weeks. He was winning the ruck well last week, and I think if Sauce Jacobs, it's going to be really up to him to really avoid hitting it to anywhere near Kelly or Niglio or whatever. So I think that in spite of them not having a ruckman, those other guys are so good. But if we can break even with the midfield, I think we do have a chance to win the game. But I fear that those guys, their midfield's so classy, I think we will be in trouble.
Well, it's interesting, Macca, and for those on Facebook, I've just chucked up a couple of stats on the game, and The differentials between when Greater Western Sydney win and when they lose are quite remarkable. When the Giants win, they're plus 28 in kicks, they're plus 12 in marks, they're plus 19 in contested possession, they're plus 24 in uncontested possession, and 7 and 5 up in clearances and marks inside 50. But when they lose, it's those very same stats that are completely the opposite. Minus 28 on kicks, minus 23 on marks, minus 2 on contested possessions, minus 7 on uncontested possessions. So, to me, the key to beating GWS from a statistical perspective is denying them the ball and winning the aerial contest. If you deny them the ball, their uncontested possession immediately dries up, their marking stats go through the floor, and they don't tend to win the game.
Well, the only downfall with what you're saying is that the fact of the playing in Canberra at night time in the middle of winter, with the forecast is -3 for Saturday night.
Who scheduled that disaster? My God.
Well, that's actually one of my smacks coming up, that very point. What lunatic would schedule a game in the dead set middle of winter at night time, let alone in the daytime? And when if you look through the forecast, every night is either freezing or minus.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Madness. Absolutely. Well, what's happened is that they've put it through their little fixture machine, and because it's not a big Victorian club, no one's jumped up and down. It's just the Giants and bloody Adelaide. So who cares? So they haven't even looked at it. Because I can tell you right now, if Eddie had got the draft of the fixture and seen Collingwood playing GWS at Monaca on a Saturday night in minus degrees, there would have been a stern attendance at AFL House, and that fixture would have changed.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, just following up from that, just quickly, when we win, the stats are ridiculous as well. When we win, we're plus 39 disposals, plus 11 marks, plus 16 contested possession, plus 25 uncontested possession, and surprisingly minus 4 on rebound 50s. When we lose, we're minus 45 disposals, so that's an 84 disposal disparity between when we win and when we lose. We're minus on marks, we're minus 15 on contested possession, so there's a 31-point differential there. We're also minus 34 on uncontested possession, so that's a 59 differential there, and minus 9 on inside 50s, and plus 3 on rebounds. So when we win the rebound 50 count, we tend to lose the game. So GWS are going to be trying to deny us the ball by getting first use. They're not great in terms of their ruck stats. They're only middle of the road from a ruck point of view, although they did it right last week. So they'll be trying to deny us the ball, and I think we'll be... I don't think you'll see us zoning off on GWS. Certainly, I think for us to win, we can't afford to hang back against GWS. We've got to show that similar intensity than that we showed against Port and be up in their grills a bit. Because the way to beat GWS is to stop them having that uncontested ball on the outside and taking uncontested marks. That's what the stats say anyway.
Well, once you let them have the ball uncontested and not putting pressure on them when they're disposing of it, they are very good users of the ball. And their midfield runs both ways too. That's the other thing they've got going for them. Yeah. Is they have a very good work rate. And then, of course, they have good players up forward. But we're lucky. One of their key players is out there, and they've actually got about 4 good players out. But having said that, they are a quality team, and I don't think we'll win. That's what I think, anyhow.
Look, I was going to say I don't think this game is beyond us. I think that our ball movement, when it's on and when we're playing for each other and moving off the ball and putting in the hard work that's, as I said, off the ball and not directly as a carrier, that's when we play our footy that can beat anyone in the competition. And I don't feel like GWS like the tough in and under pressure. And if we bring the tackling, we bring our ball work, and we actually have the confidence to play, we can outplay them. It's just about which Crow's turn is up, whether it's going to be the Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde's, and that's the bit of consistency that's worrying me at the moment. The thing that I did like out of the weekend just gone against Port was it seemed to me like a 4-quarter effort, and I haven't seen too many 4-quarter efforts for a long time. If we can maintain a 4-quarter effort against GWS, I actually think we'll get the chocolates. But it ain't going to be easy. Also, I don't think we can play the if McGovern's back. I don't think we can play McGovern, JJ, and Tex in the same forward line. I think we need to be small.
God no.
Selection's going to be really interesting because it's going to be greasy and wet, and I don't think that configuration has worked all season for us.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. In fact, I think we looked our best when we had that small forward line.
Yeah,
we really looked dangerous every time we went forward.
Look, I think the other thing that people have overlooked perhaps is that Monica is a similar size in dimensions to another of our bogey grounds. Is that right?
I don't know.
The MCG.
Isn't Monica as wide as the MCG or close enough to it? I have a feeling it might be. But, I mean, notwithstanding that, GWS play Monica very well. Look, if we win on Saturday night, I agree with you, Donkey. I think we're going to have to bring maximum effort. I don't think there's going to be any passengers allowed to even have a chance. It will actually be one of the better wins that the Crows have ever had if GWS turn up to play and we beat them on that deck under those conditions, with them very much in the hunt for a Final Four, a top 4 spot. Like everything is pointing to a GWS win. So it would certainly be an epic win if we were to get up. And I'm a bit like you, Mac. I can't see it.
No, the one and only chance I think we've got of winning is if we can force it into a scrap. And I will say this, that the playing at night and with undoubtedly a greasy ground and probably very slippery ball, if it is that, then I think that does help. It plays more our way than theirs. But if the ball can be moved pretty easily, I would say that they've got a very good midfield. If that gets on top, we will be in goners, I would say. But if we can make it into a contest, a physical contest, then we've got a chance.
What's the word on Talia? Donk, have we heard anything on Talia and whether he's going to get up this week?
No, I don't know for sure. I thought I read something today that said that he was still a test with a bit of a cork. So not a broken leg, but just a bit of a cork. So it would be good to have him back, I think, as a marshal. And is Dylan Shield out for those guys as well? Did we already say that?
I think so. And Toby Green?
Yeah, Dylan Shield and Toby Green are 2 big outs for them, so I think that's good for us.
The reason I asked about Tales is that without him, we may be quite stretched down back. They'll have to bring in an Andy Otten and or
McGovern down back,
or McGovern perhaps. But they've got some tall timber down there that we'd have to cover. So yeah, as DSG points out in the chat, we haven't played the Giants at Monica either. It'll be our first trip to Monica, I believe. I don't think we ever played North there when they were playing there, and certainly none of this squad would have played at Monica for premiership points. So, yeah, unfortunately, I think the Giants are actually going to get hold of us a bit in the end. I think it'll be a bit of a scrap for a while, but I think they'll end up winning by 5 goals. What do you reckon, Don?
Look, I think the Crows by 2.
Matt?
I think...
oh, sorry, Donkey, go on.
No, I was just going to say that I think that we are building every week, and for some reason it seems to be when it seems that everything's against us, that's when we seem to pull out our best footy. So I'm backing us in.
Matt?
Well, you'll get $3,
yeah.
Just checking up on the side of the oval. Adelaide Oval was 123 wide, and the Manukau Oval is 138 wide. So, but it's slightly not as wide as the MCG. I think we'll probably get done by around about 3 to 4 goal. I think about 3 or 4 goal. And I'm not saying we can't win it, but I'm saying that's what I think will happen.
Yep. All right. Well, look, that's the upcoming match. Now, on to the important stuff. Donkey, we've got some competitions to talk about. Now, Donkey, before you get into competitions, I'd just like to say that you're being heavily supported on Facebook in terms of graphics. So I want you to put your best foot forward on this because...
Are we on Facebook tonight?
Yeah, we're on Facebook tonight. We happen to be on Facebook tonight. But your segment has been given significant attention. So... go for it, mate.
Because it's the one that struggles the most, so you're trying to keep it up to play.
We had an editorial meeting without you being present, and get into it,
I've got
mate.
a donkey there.
Hey?
Yeah, no, I've got a donkey there. That's really nice. That actually bears more resemblance to me than I care to admit. Look, for some reason, I didn't make the finals, which has made my interest in this grains me to watch it every week. But
come on,
we'll
mate.
go through it anyway.
You're the custodian.
Yeah. So Wheat Peter is got through to the prelims this week. We're taking a win out over Corey. Bad luck, Corey. You've gone down by not very much there, 35 points in the. In the elimination final, first elimination final, Mick Spards went down to Barachos with a massive 2,509. I'm assuming there's a Buddy score and a Josh Kelly score in there too. Couldabeans have managed to scrape through on 2,293 into the next semi the next week. And Peanut, the Winter March, has gone down to Dylan FCC, and he'll be facing the Couldabeans in the semis next week. So Dylan at FCC and Wheat are through to the prelims. I'm not going to bother with the second.
No, don't worry about the second tier. I'm not even in that. I didn't even make that.
Yeah, you were so bad that you were cut from the second grouping of finals.
Me and your mate. Yeah, we're down the pub. We don't give a rat's anymore. We're down the pub.
Yeah. So so that's all very exciting stuff. And
what about the tips, mate?
Thanks, people. Well, lots of very interesting things happening in the tips again this week. J-Mac is holding a nice 5-point lead over Dominic, both with 7 for the round. Moyley has dropped off the pace. He must have backed the power on the weekend, and it hasn't come out good for him. He's now 6 back off the lead, and the fourth shot is the Cellar Dwellers back on 115 with 8 spots away from, or 7 spots away from the top spot. If we go to the CrowCast end of the board, again, I'm managing to hold a 2-point lead over Peter J, who is also holding his lead of 6 points over Phoenix. Again, we all got 3 for the round. It's just amazing. I think it's 8 weeks in a row we've hit the same thing. And,
great minds think alike.
And, this deadlock, I'm not sure it's going to be broken. So there we are.
Very good, very good. All right, without further ado, let's move on to the Game of Crows, shall we? Now, look, I'm going to fall on my sword with regards to Game of Crows. And it's quite an appropriate analogy given how many people fall on swords in that bloody show. But I don't think we've done Scorpus justice in terms of taking over the custodianship of Game of Crows this season. It started off with a bang, and interest has waned to the extent that I think we only had about 6 or 7 active entrants last week. Now, that could be because of lacklustre presentation by myself, and I'm willing to wear that, Donkey and Macca.
Yeah.
It may
that's
also
good, mate. And And I think your couple of weeks retreat away overseas for a little while was good for you to have a bit of that self-reflection. We're really proud of you, mate, and the progression you've made.
Well, I played the Richmond theme song quite extensively during that time. Look, I think also people might be getting turned off by the fact that there's quite a big margin between the top and the bottom, and that was because we had a couple of rounds where we were not doing the 3-2-1 points, but we were doing margins and that sort of stuff. Rest assured, CrowCast, Game of Crows enthusiasts, we will be having one or two more rounds that will even up the score, and basically everyone that is who has played Game of Crows still has a chance. We have Peter J on top. He's of course not eligible, being a CrowCast member. So J-Mac is winning Game of Crows at the moment as well as the tipping comp. So if nothing else, we've got to do something about that. This week it is Pressure Axe. So we will be doing a standard 3-2-1 on Pressure Axe. But essentially for the round 23, whoever has made an entry during the season will be eligible for the bonus round in round 23, which will go towards giving everyone basically an opportunity to win Game of Crows. So go to our website, aflcrowcast.com, to have a look at the full leaderboard. As I said, this week is Pressure Axe. Last week's winner escapes me just for the moment. But as I said, not many people actually entered. Not many people actually. It was, what was it? It was turnovers, wasn't it, I think? Anyway, the Game of Crows leaderboard is
it was turnovers.
Yeah, it's up to date on our website, so go and have a look. Pressure Axe this week. Don't be discouraged by your standing on the leaderboard. Everyone has a shot of winning this thing. Macca, I think we better send it over to you now. What do you reckon?
I am, oh yes I am, a grumpy old man. That's what I am, and I really don't care who knows it. I don't vote politicians.
Well, we'll start off with a sweet, and I'm giving my sweet this week to Josh Jenkins. Early this year, in previous years, we were all correctly criticising him for a lack of effort, no risk of his body, lack of intensity, happy to be a seagull, picking up chips at the back, etc., etc. Same old comments, but obviously the club had a bit of a word to too, and he stopped a lot of his media commitments, and he's really put in. And the showdown really illustrated just how much JJ has turned his game around. You could not have asked any more out of the guy than his effort in the showdown, and I think our win there, he contributed as much as anybody else did, and I just there wasn't one incident where I could have said that he could have put his body in a lot harder. So big sweep to JJ for a very good game, and also changing the way he plays the game altogether. A bit of a surprising smack is Ken Hinkley. Ken, I heard your little diatribe after the game, and somebody's saying it's a hissy fit. It was a hissy fit. And you made an assumption in that hissy fit that it was only a point, that it was not a goal. You don't know whether it was a goal or a point, but you, like bloody Cane Corns, like bloody Rucci, to you, it's a bloody point. And even though the AFL came out later and said the goal umpire decision and the third umpire's decision was correct, so therefore you're bloody wrong. So you actually carried on with a great big bloody diatribe about wrong decisions costing teams a finals position. So Ken, wake up, you bloody idiot. And the other thing too is that in the game of football, there are probably potentially hundreds of decisions that could be made, and there are many that are made and some that aren't made, and a lot of those are incorrect either way. And for you just to single one out, then to carry out like a bloody pork chop because you lost, bad luck, mate. Big smack on the head for you. And secondly and finally, the AFL, they get a smack too for programming that ridiculous timed game at, I think it's ridiculous to even play in bloody Canberra, and to play it at night time rather than even the daytime when we're going to be on a bloody skating rink. Well, just absolutely stupid. It shows how much you really think about the game. Big smack for
Bang.
the AFL.
Donkey, you agree with those? I reckon he's a bit harsh on Hinkley. Heat of the moment. Heat of the moment.
Hinkley. Oh, no, I don't think it's harsh on Hinkley because I don't want to put any more pressure on him. But Hinkley is the epitome of why that club is going to remain in the gutter for the rest of their eternity because of his weak, lily-livered way that he whinges about everything that doesn't go his way, blaming the players, blaming all this, blaming all that. You know, and he hasn't done anything. You know, he had the little spike, the same as Sando did right at the start of the career, and absolutely done nothing with apparently the greatest list that's ever been assembled. What a spud of a coach, what a spud of a man, what a spud of a team, and I'm so glad we beat those guys last week.
Oh, yeah. So, speaking of spuds, and I'm surprised, Macca, that this got through to the keeper on you, David Koch coming out on Monday on Sunrise and saying that if it had been a Port player, the Port Adelaide culture is such that if it had been a Port player, he would have actually informed the umpire that the ball had hit the post. And this is the president who presides over the club that includes such Olympic diving experts as Robbie Gray and Chad Wingard and Westhoff and a couple of others. Yeah. The only club that challenges Geelong and to a lesser degree Western Bulldogs in terms of milking free kicks, it's bloody Port Adelaide. And for Kochi to have the hubris to come out on national television and try to suggest that Port Adelaide has a clean skin, always play by the rules, will walk rather than wait for the umpire's decision, a la Adam Gilchrist. Not a chance in hell. He's ignoring 100 years of history that suggests and proves exactly the opposite. To me, that's massively smack-worthy, and I'm sure that Nicky will be chucking a bit of a cockwomble his way on Sunday night, Mac. What do you reckon?
Yeah, he was definitely talking out of his arse, and he deserves one. And also the two divers that you were talking about. I mean, you can put those into the Olympics. The quality of their diving is so refined by now, been practiced out often.
Yeah.
Well, it was telling... Sorry, don't go on.
No, I was just going to say, and the other one that's not really a smack, I think he deserves a sweet, is Charlie Dixon. I reckon he should have won the Showdown medal for us. He is such a spud.
See, that's why you get the humour. That's why you get the funny bits.
Well, I watch him every week and go, mate, aren't you supposed to have come on by now? I mean, what? Who walks around 8 foot tall with a beard like that, looking like an angry biker's uncle, and then does absolutely nothing? He is the epitome of that club. Fake tough. They are so fake tough. When he flinched, when Fogarty bumped him in their preseason, I just thought to myself, that is you, mate. You are nothing. You are a big wuss bag.
Oh, Donkey, love your work. Love your work. All right, guys. Well, look, we better wrap it up because it's been a long show. We've got some internal issues, I think, that we have to deal with during the week. Look, don't forget, you can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, AFL CrowCast. You can go and visit our website, aflcrowcast.com. If you're listening to us on iTunes, please give us a review. And, of course, if you're feeling generous, there's a donate button on our website that you can also click. There's 100,000 ways to listen to us. If you're listening on Facebook at the moment, there's a million ways to listen to the CrowCast now. Now you can watch us on Facebook as well. So thanks everyone on chat for joining us. Thanks to those who joined us on Facebook. Thanks, Donkey. Thanks, Macca. Thanks, Pete, if you're out there somewhere. And we will see you on Sunday for the Wrap Show. Good night, all.
Yep. Good night, all.
Night.